I'm Simone Grant. I'm 64 years old, and I need to tell you what my son did to me on a rainy Thursday morning in April. I was standing in my kitchen in Queens, the same kitchen where I'd made Evan's breakfast every single day for 18 years, holding a stack of linen napkins I'd hand-stitched with his and Leah's initials intertwined in gold thread.
My fingers were still sore from the needle.
3 nights I'd stayed up. 3 nights of squinting under my desk lamp because I wanted everything to be perfect for my only child's wedding. The napkins were supposed to be a surprise. I heard his key in the lock. Evan still had a key. Of course he did. This was his home before it was anything else. "Mom," he called out. "In here, honey." I arranged the napkins on the counter, smoothing them out so he could see the detail work. I was so excited to show him. He walked in, but he wasn't alone. Leah followed 2 steps behind her, 4-inch heels clicking on my kitchen tile like a countdown. She was already dressed, cocktail dress, full makeup, hair done. Evan wore a blazer I'd never seen before. Charcoal gray. Expensive. "What's the occasion?" I asked, smiling. "You two look like you're going somewhere fancy." Evan's eyes dropped to the floor. That's when I knew. You know that feeling when your body understands something before your brain catches up, when the air changes, and suddenly you're cold, even though nothing's changed, Mom. Evan's voice was flat, rehearsed. "We need to talk." I set down the napkin I was holding. "Okay." Silence. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Leah shifted her weight, crossed her arms. The smile on her face wasn't a smile, it was something else. Something I'd seen before on the faces of women who'd already decided you were beneath them. "Evan," she said softly. Not to me. To him, like I wasn't even there. He took a breath. "Mom, you're not invited to the wedding." The words didn't make sense at first. They were English, but they landed wrong, like someone had scrambled the sentence. "What to the wedding?" he repeated.
Slower this time.
Like I was stupid. "You're not. We decided it's better if you don't come." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. It was so absurd. "Evan, honey, what are you Lee thinks," he started. "I know it's going to cause problems," Leah cut in. Her voice was smooth, practiced. "And we just want the day to be drama-free. You understand?" I looked at my son, my boy. The child I'd carried for 9 months, raised alone after his father walked out when Evan was 4. The kid I'd worked double shifts for at Mount Sinai so he could go to private school, so he could have music lessons, so he could go to college debt-free while I cashed out my retirement. "Evan," I said carefully. "This is a joke, right?" He wouldn't look at me. "No hard feelings," Simone, Leah said. She said my name like it tasted bad. "We're just being selective. We only want important people there. People who really matter to us. People who fit." That's when I saw it. Behind them, through the doorway, I could see Evan's car parked outside. The back seat was full. Garment bags. A cake box from that boutique bakery on Madison Avenue. They were dressed for something now. Something happening tonight. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Rehearsal dinner," Leah said. "At Cipriani. My parents are hosting." I looked at Evan. "You didn't tell me there was a rehearsal dinner?" "It's family only," Leah said before he could answer. Family only. I was still holding one of the napkins. The gold thread caught the light. E and L. Forever. After everything, my voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. After everything I gave up for you, Evan. Everything I sacrificed. I'm not important enough." He finally looked at me then, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Shame, maybe, but also something else. Relief. Like he'd been waiting for permission to cut me loose and Lee had finally given it to him. "It's just easier this way, Mom." he said quietly. Leah's family has certain expectations. And he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to.
Leah touched his arm.
We should go. We're going to be late. They turned to leave. Just like that. 30 seconds. That's all it took to erase 30 years. Evan, I said. He paused. Didn't turn around. I hope you have a beautiful wedding, I whispered.
Leah's heels clicked toward the door.
Evan followed.
The door closed.
I stood there in my kitchen, the kitchen where I'd taught him to crack eggs, where we'd done homework at the table where I'd held him when he cried about his father leaving, and I looked down at the napkins. 47 of them. I'd counted. 47 hand-stitched linen napkins for a wedding I wasn't invited to. I set them down carefully, folded my hands, took a breath, and I made a decision. If I wasn't important enough to be at his wedding, then he was about to learn exactly how important I'd been all along. Some people think revenge is about anger. It's not. It's about clarity. And I was about to get very clear. After they left, I sat down at that kitchen table. The same table I'd bought secondhand from a thrift store on Steinway Street back in 1987. Evan was 3 years old then. He used to sit on my lap while I paid bills, his little fingers tracing the wood grain while I stretched every dollar until it screamed. I stared at the napkins, and suddenly I was back there. Back to the beginning. The smell of industrial cleaner still makes me nauseous. For 20 years, I scrubbed office floors in Midtown Manhattan. The night shift. I'd take the N train from Astoria at 9 p.m., mop and vacuum, until 5 a.m., then catch the first train back to get Evan ready for school. I can still feel the weight of those years in my knees, the burn in my lower back, the chemical sting in my hands, no matter how many times I washed them. But Evan never knew I was tired. Every morning I made him breakfast. Eggs, toast, orange juice. I packed his lunch in a brown paper bag with a note inside. You're going to do great things.
Love, Mom.
Every single day. Even when I'd only slept 2 hours.
Even when my hands shook from exhaustion.
His father, Michael, died when Evan was 4. Heart attack. Right there on a sidewalk, in Brooklyn, briefcase still in his hand. The doctor said it was genetic. Said Michael probably didn't feel any pain. I felt enough for both of us. Suddenly I was alone. No family. No backup plan. Just me, a 4-year-old boy, and a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens with rent I could barely afford. I took a second job, filing clerk at Mount Sinai during the day, cleaning offices at night. I slept 4, maybe 5 hours if I was lucky. I learned to function on coffee and adrenaline and the sound of Evan laughing when I got home. That laugh kept me alive. When he was 7, he wanted violin lessons. All his friends at school were taking music. I called 17 different programs trying to find one I could afford. I finally found a teacher in the Bronx who'd give me a discount if I cleaned her studio once a week. So I did. I scrubbed her floors every Saturday morning before Evan's lesson.
She never mentioned it in front of him.
I appreciated that. When he was 14, he got into Regis High School. Full scholarship.
I cried for an hour in the bathroom at work. My son, my brilliant, kind, beautiful son, was going to one of the best schools in New York City.
But scholarships don't cover everything. Books. Uniforms.
School trips.
Donations they suggested, but really meant required. I started skipping meals. Breakfast first, then lunch. I told myself I wasn't hungry. Told myself I'd eat later. I lost 23 pounds that year. Evan never noticed. I pawned my engagement ring to pay for his class trip to Washington, D.C. He came back so excited talking about the monuments and the museums and how he wanted to study history, maybe become a teacher. I smiled and nodded and never told him where the money came from. When he got into NYU, I cashed out my retirement fund. All of it. 20 years of contributions gone in one tuition payment. But he graduated debt-free. He walked across that stage, and I sat in the audience with a smile so wide my face hurt. He hugged me afterward and said, "I couldn't have done this without you, Mom." I believed him. Then he met Leah. She was different from the girls he'd dated before. Polished. Confident. From a family with money, real money. The kind that came with summer houses and charity galas and expectations. At first, I tried. I really did. I paid for their car repairs when Leah's BMW broke down. $1,700 I didn't have. I covered 2 months of their rent when Evan was between jobs. I even paid for their engagement party at that restaurant in Soho, the one where a single cocktail cost $24. Leah smiled at me that night and said, "You're so generous, Simone." Not thank you. Not we appreciate this. Just, "You're so generous." Like it was a personality quirk. Like I was doing it for fun. If you've ever given everything to someone who later turned away, you'll understand this part. There's a special kind of exhaustion that comes from loving someone who forgets to love you back. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It just settles into your bones, quiet and cold, until one day you realize you've been carrying it for years. Thank you to everyone who helps keep these stories alive. Every word you share, every act of kindness helps protect those who still believe in family. Those of us who keep giving even when it costs us everything. I sat at that table looking at the wedding invitation that had arrived 3 weeks ago. Heavy cardstock. Embossed lettering. Evan and Leah. There was no +1 line for mother. I'd assumed it was a mistake. Now I knew better. I folded my hands on the table, took a breath, and I started making calls. I made one call that night. Just one. To my lawyer, Richard Chen. We'd gone to the same church in Flushing for 15 years. He handled my will, after Michael died, helped me with the deed. When I finally paid off the condo in Astoria, the one Michael and I bought together in 1984. "Richard," I said, "I need you to pull the title on my property. Just check that everything's still in order. Simone, what's going on? Just do it. Please."
He called me back 2 hours later.
"Everything's fine," he said. "Title's clean.
Still in your name only.
Why are you thinking of selling?" I exhaled. "No. Just making sure." "Simone, thank you, Richard." I hung up before he could ask more questions. I told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself Evan would never. Then I heard Leah's voice. It was the following Tuesday. I'd gone to their apartment in Williamsburg to drop off a check, another favor covering their electric bill, because Leah said they'd had unexpected expenses. I had a key. Evan insisted I keep one. In case of emergencies, Mom. I knocked first. No answer. I let myself in, planning to leave the check on the counter. That's when I heard her. Leah was in the bedroom door, half open on speakerphone. I froze in the hallway. "No, Ashley. Listen." Leah's voice was bright, excited. "Once his mom signs over the condo, we can refinance everything. The whole property's worth like $800K now. We'll pull equity, pay off my student loans, maybe even get the lake house." Silence on the other end. Then a woman's voice, her sister, I assumed. "And she's just going to give it to you?" Leah laughed. It was a light, careless sound. "She won't say no. She's obsessed with being the generous mother. It's like her whole identity. Evan says she literally can't help herself." My hand went to the wall, steadied myself. "Plus," Leah continued, "once we have guardianship papers filed, we can start transitioning everything. Evan's name on her accounts, power of attorney, the whole setup. She's 64. It's not like she's going to need it forever. God, you're terrible, Ashley said. But she was laughing. I'm practical, Leah corrected. And anyway, she'll still be family. She can visit whenever she wants. Well within reason. The call ended. I heard her humming as she walked to the closet. I backed out of the apartment so quietly I didn't breathe until I reached the stairwell. 3 days later, Evan came to visit. He brought flowers. Daisies, my favorite. I put them in water and made him coffee, same as always. We sat at the kitchen table. Mom, he said after a few minutes, I wanted to talk to you about something. Okay. He stirred his coffee. Didn't look up. You know, Dad's condo, the one here in Astoria. My chest tightened. Yes. Well, you're not really using it anymore. I mean, you live here, and it's just sitting there, right, Evan? I do live there. This is the condo. Right, but I mean, he shifted. You don't need all that space. And Leah and I were thinking, maybe you could sign it over to us. As like an early inheritance. Part of our future. I stared at him. It would really help us out, Mom. We're trying to build a life and property in New York is impossible right now. You'd still be family.
You'd still be part of everything.
You'd still be family.
As if that was something he could grant or revoke.
Let me think about it, I said quietly. Of course. No pressure. He smiled.
Reached across the table and squeezed my hand.
That's when I saw it. His bag was open on the chair beside him. A folder inside papers visible.
The top page had a header in bold GUARDIANSH IPANDPOWEROFTTORNEYTRANSFERAGREIIMENIT.
My name was already typed in. I pulled my hand back slowly. Evan, what's that? What's what in your bag?
He glanced down.
His face went pale. Oh, that's nothing.
Just something Leah's dad suggested we look into.
You know, for estate planning. We weren't going to get out. Mom, get out. He stood. You're overreacting. You came here to steal my home. My voice was shaking. You came here with legal documents to take control of my finances. And you brought me flowers. It's not like that GETOUT. He grabbed his bag. Backed toward the door. You're being unreasonable. Leah said you'd react like this. The door slammed before he finished. I stood there shaking. My hands were numb. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd collapse. I walked to the window.
Watched him get into his car.
Drive away. And I realized something. I'd spent 30 years protecting him, sacrificing for him, believing in him. And he'd spent the last year figuring out how to erase me. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal made you question your own worth, you're not alone. Thank you to everyone who helps me tell these stories.
Your support keeps this space alive for those who still believe that truth somehow will always find its way. I sat down at my table.
Pulled out my phone. And I started making a list. The list sat on my kitchen table for 3 days. I didn't touch it. Didn't add to it.
Just stared at it every time I walked past.
Call Richard. Change the will. Protect the condo. Simple. Practical. Necessary. But I couldn't move. My cousin Rita called on Friday.
There was a small family gathering at her place in Bayside, just a few relatives, nothing fancy.
You should come, Simone. It's been too long. I almost said no. But the apartment was so quiet.
Even the walls seemed to avoid me.
So I went. The moment I walked into Rita's living room, I felt it. That shift in the air. Conversations that stopped mid-sentence. eyes that looked away too quickly. Rita hugged me, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Simone, so glad you made it. I sat on the couch, poured myself coffee, tried to pretend I belonged there. Then I heard the whispers. Aunt Marie talking to Rita's daughter in the kitchen. Their voices low, but not low enough. I heard Leah's really concerned about her. Says she's been forgetting things. Forgetting what I don't know. Important things. Appointments. Conversations. Leah thinks she might be, getting unstable. A pause. Then Rita's daughter, maybe it's better she stays home from the wedding. Less stressful for everyone. I set down my coffee cup. My hands were shaking. Uncle Frank sat down next to me, patted my knee. How you holding up, Simone? Fine, I said. If you ever need anything, support, someone to talk to, we're here. He said it like I was sick, like I was fragile. I'm fine, Frank. He nodded slowly, didn't believe me. I left 20 minutes later, said I wasn't feeling well. No one tried to stop me. The apartment was colder when I got back. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before I turned on the lights. The silence felt like a burial. Like the walls were closing in, sealing me inside something I couldn't name. I heated a can of soup. Tomato. The same kind I used to make for Evan when he was sick. I poured it into a bowl. Carried it to the table. My hands were trembling so badly I dropped the spoon. It clattered against the tile floor, loud in the stillness. I didn't pick it up. I just stood there, staring at it. My own son thinks I'm disposable, I whispered. The words hung in the air. No one answered. I sat down, pushed the soup away, folded my hands on the table.
The clock on the wall ticked.
53 seconds passed. I counted. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. I sat in that kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd raised my son, where I'd celebrated his birthdays, where I'd held him when he cried, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just empty. I thought about calling someone. But who? Rita, who whispered about me in her own kitchen, Richard, who'd asked too many questions I didn't have answers for. Evan. God, I wanted to call Evan. I wanted to hear his voice and have him tell me this was all a misunderstanding. That he loved me. That I mattered. But I knew better now. I looked at the wedding invitation still sitting on the counter. Evan and Leah. Heavy cardstock. Elegant script. No space for mother. I wondered if they'd already told people I wasn't coming.
If they'd spun some story, she's not feeling well, she's getting forgetful, she's unstable.
Maybe they believed it themselves by now. Maybe I was the villain in their version of this story. The thought made my chest tighten. Was I really that blind? Had I missed the signs? Was this my fault for giving too much, for being too available, for making myself so easy to erase? I closed my eyes.
The silence pressed against my eardrums.
If you've ever sat in a room so quiet, it started to echo your thoughts, you'll understand this silence. Thank you to those who help keep these stories alive. Your kindness helps give voice to people who've been forgotten, who sit alone in their pain, waiting to be seen again. I opened my eyes. The list was still there. 3 simple tasks. Call Richard. Change the will. Protect the condo. I picked up my phone. My hands were steadier now. I wasn't healed. I wasn't whole. But I wasn't gone either. I dialed Richard's number. He answered on the second ring. Richard, I said quietly, I need you to do something for me. And I need you to do it quickly.
What's going on, Simone? I took a breath.
I need to change my will. And I need to make sure no one, not even my son, can touch my property without my explicit written consent.
Silence on the other end.
Simone, are you sure? I looked at the wedding invitation, at the napkins still folded on the counter. at the empty chair where Evan used to sit. I've never been more sure of anything in my life.
Richard came to my apartment the next morning with a briefcase and a notary.
We sat at the kitchen table. He walked me through every document. Power of attorney revoked. Will amended. The condo placed in an irrevocable trust with me as sole beneficiary during my lifetime. After my death, it would go to a charity of my choosing, not to Evan. I signed each page slowly. My hand didn't shake, Simone Richard said quietly. Are you absolutely certain about this? I looked at him. My son came here with guardianship papers and flowers, Richard. He was going to take my home while pretending to care about my future. Richard's jaw tightened. He nodded. I'll file these today. After he left, I sat in the silence again. But this time, it felt different. Lighter. Then, someone knocked. I opened the door to find Mrs. Delgado from 3B. She was holding a Tupperware container and looking nervous. Simone, she said. I need to tell you something. I let her in. She set the container on the counter, Aras Khan Palo still warm, and turned to face me. Her hands were shaking. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. I didn't know if it was my place. What is it, Elena? She took a breath. 2 weeks ago, I saw your son and his fiancée with a real estate agent. They were standing outside the building looking up at your windows. The agent had a clipboard. My stomach dropped. I asked what they were doing. The agent said they were assessing the property for a future sale. Evan told me you were thinking of downsizing, that you'd ask them to help. I hadn't asked them anything. Then yesterday, Elena continued, I was at the laundromat on 31 St. Leah was there with her sister. They didn't see me, I was folding clothes in the back. But I heard them talking. She pulled out her phone. Simone, I recorded it. I'm sorry. I know it's invasive, but I thought you should know. She pressed play. Leah's voice filled my kitchen, clear and sharp, won't last long living alone. She's already forgetting things. Evan says she left the stove on twice last week. I had never left the stove on. Once we have the place, Leah continued, we won't have to pretend anymore. God, I'm so tired of being nice to her. The woman doesn't even realize she's a burden. Her sister laughed. What about the wedding? What about it? She's not coming.
We already told everyone she's not well.
People believe it. Evan's been laying the groundwork for months. Laying the groundwork. For months. The recording ended. I stood there staring at Elena's phone. Everything clicked into place. The concerned looks. The questions about my health. The gentle suggestions that I rest more, take it easy. Evan asking if I'd seen a doctor lately. Leah's comments about my forgetfulness. They'd been building a narrative. A story where I was unstable, declining, incompetent, so that when they took my home, when they took control, no one would question it. Everyone would think they were helping. There's more, Elena said softly.
She pulled a folded paper from her purse. This was in the building's recycling yesterday.
I think it fell out of someone's bag.
She handed it to me.
It was a draft petition. Legal letterhead.
The title read PETITIONFORDINITIONOFFINACITYWYANDAPPOINTIMTAOM.
My name was typed at the top. Beneath it, a list of claims. Subject has demonstrated significant memory loss and confusion.
Subject has difficulty managing finances and daily tasks.
Subject requires supervision for her own safety and well-being. Every single one was a lie. At the bottom, 2 signature lines. Evan Grant, petitioner. Leah Whitmore, supporting witness. I set the paper down carefully. My hands were steady.
Elena watched me, her eyes full of worry.
Simone, I'm so sorry. I know he's your son, but thank you, I said quietly. For telling me. For showing me. She squeezed my hand and left. I stood in my kitchen holding that petition, and I felt something shift inside me. Not rage. Not tears. Clarity. For 30 years I'd believed that love meant sacrifice. That being a good mother meant giving until there was nothing left. I'd believed my son when he said he needed me, but he'd never needed me. He'd needed what I could give him. And now that I'd given everything I was, in the way. If you've ever found truth in the quiet moments after pain, you know what this part feels like. Thank you to everyone who supports these stories. Your kindness keeps hope alive for people still finding their voice after betrayal. I picked up my phone, opened my contacts, and I called every single person who'd been invited to Evan's wedding. Starting with Leah's parents. Hello, Mrs. Whitmore. This is Simone Grant. I think we need to talk about your daughter's plans for my property. The conversation lasted 47 minutes. By the time I hung up, Leah's mother was crying. And I was just getting started. Mrs. Whitmore called me back 3 hours later. Her voice was shaking. Simone, I had no idea. We need to meet. Can you come to our house tomorrow? No, I said quietly. But you're welcome to come here. 2 o'clock. I hung up before she could respond. Then I called my bank. This is Simone Grant. I need to stop all recurring transfers from my account effective immediately. The representative pulled up my records. Mrs. Grant, you have 3 active transfers. One to Evan Grant for $1 $200 monthly, one to Leah Whitmore for $800 monthly, and one joint payment of $500 for their utilities. Should I cancel all 3? Yes. May I ask why I don't need to explain? Cancel them. Of course. They'll be stopped within 24 hours. I hung up and stared at my bank statement. 3 years of transfers. $2, $500 a month, $30,000 a year. $90,000 total. Money I'd given freely because I believed it was helping my son build a life. Money they'd accepted while planning to take everything else. There comes a point when silence stops meaning defeat. It becomes preparation. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. Labeled it Evidence. I started downloading everything. Bank statements showing every transfer I'd made to Evan and Leah. Screenshots of text messages where they'd asked for money, always urgent, always vague about why. Copies of checks I'd written. The guardianship petition Elena had found. The recording of Leah's voice. Each file I saved felt like cutting a thread that had been wrapped around my throat for years. My phone rang. Evan's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again 2 minutes later. Voicemail. Again. I turned off the ringer and kept working. The next morning, I called a locksmith. I need all my locks changed. Today, if possible. He arrived at noon. By 12:45, my apartment had new deadbolts, new keys, and a security chain I'd never had before. I kept one key for myself, gave the spare to Elena. Evan's key would no longer work. At 1:30, I installed a video doorbell, the kind that records motion and saves everything to the cloud. I mounted it myself, drilling carefully into the doorframe, making sure the angle captured anyone who approached. At exactly 2:00 p.m., the Whitmores arrived. Leah's parents were not what I expected. Her mother, Patricia, was elegant, perfectly styled hair, designer handbag, the kind of woman who'd never worked a night shift in her life. Her father, Douglas, wore a suit even on a Saturday.
They sat on my couch, looking uncomfortable.
Mrs. Grant, Patricia began. We owe you an apology. You owe me the truth, I said. Douglas cleared his throat. We weren't aware of. The extent of Leah's plans regarding your property. When you called yesterday and explained the situation, we were shocked. Shocked, I repeated. Your daughter tried to have me declared incompetent so she could steal my home. And you were shocked. Patricia's eyes filled with tears.
We raised her better than this.
I don't know where we went wrong. You didn't go wrong, I said quietly.
You just didn't notice what she became.
Silence. What do you need from us? Douglas asked. I need you to understand that I'm not signing anything. I'm not giving up my home. And I'm not attending a wedding where I've been erased. Patricia nodded. We understand. And for what it's worth, we think you're making the right decision. They left 20 minutes later. My phone had 17 missed calls from Evan by then. I made coffee.
Sat at my kitchen table.
And I listened to the voicemails. Mom, what the hell, the bank just called. You stopped our transfers. We have bills delete. Mom, this is ridiculous. Just call me back. Delete.
Why are you doing this? Leah says you're being irrational.
We're trying to help you. Delete. Fine. Don't answer. But you need to sign the condo transfer. We've already talked to the agent. Just stop being difficult. I set the phone down. For years I mistook generosity for love. Now I'm learning the quiet math of self-respect. The doorbell rang that evening. The video feed showed Evan standing outside, trying his key. It didn't work. He tried again. Knocked. Mom, I know you're in there. Open the door. I watched him on the screen. Didn't move. Mom, please. We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. I took a sip of coffee. It's funny how silence can sound like thunder when guilt starts to echo. He knocked for 6 more minutes, then left. I opened my laptop, pulled up Richard's email from earlier that day. Simone documents are filed. Trust is irrevocable. No one can touch your property without a court order, and given the evidence you've provided, no judge would grant one. You're protected. Richard, I smiled. Then I opened a new email. Subject: wedding gift, attached copies of the guardianship petition, the recording bank statements showing $90 zero in transfers. Recipients: Leah's parents, Evan's godfather, my cousin Rita, 3 family friends who'd been invited to the wedding. Body of email: I thought you should know what's been happening. I won't be attending the wedding. I hope you understand why. My finger hovered over send. For the first time, I didn't need them to hear me.
My silence had already spoken.
I pressed send, and I waited for the storm I'd just unleashed.
The responses started within hours.
Rita called first.
Simone, I
had no idea. I'm so sorry.
We all believed them.
Evan's godfather sent a text. This is unconscionable. I've withdrawn my gift and my attendance. Leah's aunt left a voicemail. Patricia just told me everything. We're not going to the wedding. One by one, the messages came in. By Monday morning, 12 guests had canceled. By Tuesday, 23. Evan called 41 times that week. I didn't answer once. Then, on Friday, 2 days before the wedding, Leah's mother called. Simone, Patricia said. Her voice was tight. We need to resolve this. The wedding is in 48 hours. There's nothing to resolve. Leah is... She's very upset. She says you've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything, Patricia. I just told the truth. Silence. Then will you at least consider coming for Evan's sake? I almost laughed. You're asking me to attend a wedding I was banned from. Things have changed. Leah realizes she may have overreacted. Overreacted, I repeated. She tried to steal my home. Please, Simone. Just think about it. She hung up before I could respond. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the wedding invitation still propped against the napkin holder. Evan and Leah. I thought about not going, staying home, letting them have their day. Then I remembered the guardianship petition, the recording, the lies they'd told about my mental state. I remembered Evan's voice. Lee says you're not welcome. I picked up my phone and called Richard. Richard, I need you to prepare something for me. Saturday morning. The wedding. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, smoothing the fabric of my navy dress. Simple, elegant, nothing flashy. I wasn't going there to make a scene. I was going there to deliver the truth. I arrived at the venue, a boutique hotel in Manhattan, at 2:47 p.m. The ceremony started at 3:00. The lobby was full of guests in pastels and suits, holding champagne flutes, laughing. I walked through them like a ghost. No one noticed me at first. Then someone did. Leah's mother. Patricia's face went white.
She crossed the lobby in 6 strides, heels clicking.
"Simone!" she hissed. "You weren't supposed to be here." "I know," I said calmly, "but I have something for the couple." I held up a cream-colored envelope. Sealed. Heavy. Patricia stared at it like it might explode. "What is that, a wedding gift?" I walked past her into the ceremony room. The space was beautiful. White flowers everywhere. String quartet playing softly. Rows of chairs filled with guests who'd whispered about me, pitied me, believed I was losing my mind. I found the wedding planner near the front. A young woman with a clipboard looking frazzled. "Excuse me," I said. "I need you to give this to the bride and groom before the ceremony starts." She blinked. "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "I'm the mother of the groom." Her eyes widened. She glanced at the envelope, then back at me. "Ma'am, I don't think it's important," I said quietly. "Legal documents. They'll want to see them before they say their vows." She hesitated, then took the envelope. I sat down in the back row. The room was filling up, guests chattering, the quartet transitioning to the processional music. Then I saw the planner approach Leah in the bridal suite doorway.
Saw her hand over the envelope. Leah's face changed immediately.
She ripped it open, pulled out the documents.
Her hands started shaking.
She read.
Her face went from confusion to shock to rage in under 30 seconds. Inside that envelope, a legal notice terminating all financial support effective immediately. Copies of the guardianship petition with her signature.
The recording transcript of her conversation about my property. Bank statements showing $90 zero in transfers. A restraining order application prohibiting contact regarding my assets. And a letter handwritten, "I will not be financially exploited by anyone, family or not. You wanted me gone from this wedding. I'm granting your wish. After today, you'll never have to pretend to care about me again. But you'll also never touch another dollar of mine." Simone Leah screamed. The entire room turned. She stormed toward me, still in her wedding dress veil, trailing behind her like a war banner. "You see RAZYOLDWOMAN, she shrieked. "We NED. That condo we DESARV. It after everything we've done for you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evan appeared behind her, face red. "Mom, what the hell is this? Why would you do this, TOD? Why?" I stood slowly. The room fell silent. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised alone, the child I'd sacrificed everything for. And I said very quietly, "Because you stopped being my son the day I stopped being useful." His face crumpled. Leah was still screaming. "You can't do this. That property is OURSUOWES. I owe you nothing, I said. The officiant stepped forward awkwardly. Perhaps we should. Postpone, there's nothing to postpone, I said. I looked around the room at all the faces staring at me. These two tried to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my home. The evidence is in that envelope. Anyone who wants to see it is welcome to... Silence.
Leah's face was purple.
GATOUT. I'm leaving, I said. I picked up my purse. Congratulations on your wedding. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, chaos erupted. Shouting. Crying. The sound of chairs scraping. I didn't look back. I stepped into the Manhattan sunlight, and for the first time in months, I could breathe.
I walked 3 blocks before I stopped.
My legs were shaking. My hands were trembling. I found a bench outside a coffee shop on Lexington and sat down. The adrenaline was draining out of me, leaving something else in its place. Not triumph. Not satisfaction. Just quiet. I sat there for 20 minutes, watching people pass. Couples holding hands. Families with strollers. Normal Saturday afternoon in Manhattan. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. I saw the news. Are you okay news? I opened my browser. Typed, Williamsburg wedding canceled. The first result was a post on a wedding shaming forum. Someone had live-streamed the whole thing. The video had 47,000 views. I watched myself walk out of that venue. Watched Leah screaming. Watched Evan's face collapse. The comments were brutal. Imagine trying to steal from your own mother-in-law. The bride literally admitted they NEADAD, the condo on camera, that poor woman. I hope she never speaks to them again. I closed the browser. My phone rang. Evan. I stared at his name on the screen. Then I answered. Mom, his voice was wrecked. Hoarse. Mom, please. Please don't ruin my life. I closed my eyes. I didn't ruin your life, Evan. The wedding's canceled. Everyone saw. It's all over the internet. Leah's parents won't even look at me. Please, you have to. I didn't ruin your life, I said again, quieter. You traded your mother for money, and you came out empty-handed. Silence. That's not goodbye, Evan. I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked the number. Then I blocked Lee's. Then I turned off my phone and sat in the quiet. After the verdict, silence became my favorite sound. It was the sound of justice finally breathing. Over the next few weeks, I heard things. Not because I was looking, but because people talk and Queens is smaller than you'd think. Leah's parents had cut her off financially. No more rent payments. No more credit card bailouts. The wedding venue was demanding payment for the canceled event over $12,000. They couldn't pay. Leah had to take a job at a boutique in Soho. Retail. Minimum wage plus commission.
Someone told me they saw her ringing up handbags, her hands shaking, eyes red.
Evan lost his job 3 weeks later. His boss had seen the video. Didn't want that kind of drama associated with the firm. He moved back in with Leah in their Williamsburg apartment, the one I'd been helping them pay for. They lasted 2 months before the eviction notice came. I didn't feel joy when I heard that. I didn't feel anything. They used to whisper that I'd lost my mind. Now they avoid their own reflections. Rita called in early October. Simone, I saw Evan at the grocery store yesterday. Okay. He looked bad, thin, tired. He asked if I'd seen you. I didn't respond. He wanted me to tell you he's sorry. Did you? I said I'd pass it along. But Simone, I don't think he understands what he did. He kept saying Leah got in his head, like he wasn't responsible. I looked out my window at the Queensboro Bridge at the cars passing in the late afternoon light. He's not my responsibility anymore, Rita. She was quiet for a moment. No, I suppose he's not. By November, I heard they'd broken up.
Leah moved back to Connecticut to her parents' house.
Evan found a studio in the Bronx, sharing it with 2 roommates. They blamed each other, apparently. She said he was weak. He said she was manipulative. From greedy alliance to 2 strangers drowning in the same regret. I didn't need to ruin them. Their lies had already done that. One evening in December, I was walking home from the market when I saw something. A wedding photo blown across the sidewalk by the wind. White dress, tuxedo, 2 people smiling. Not Evan and Leah. Just some couple. But I watched it tumble down the street, catching on a fence, then lifting again, disappearing into traffic. I thought about all the things I'd given up. The meals I'd skipped. The nights I'd worked. The dreams I'd deferred. And I realized something. I'd spent 30 years building a life for my son. Now, for the first time, I could build one for myself. I went home that night and opened my laptop. I'd always wanted to take a writing class. There was one at the community center memoir writing Thursday evenings. I signed up. I started volunteering at a food bank on Saturdays. Met people. Made friends who didn't know. Evan didn't know the story, just knew me. I bought myself flowers every week. Daisies. My favorite. I stopped waiting for my phone to ring. And slowly the apartment stopped feeling so quiet. It started feeling like peace.
Some debts don't need to be collected.
Life has its own way of balancing the books. On New Year's Eve, I stood at my window and watched fireworks over the East River. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mom. It's Evan. New number. Can we talk? I read it twice. Then I deleted it. I poured myself a glass of wine, toasted the city, and welcomed the year ahead. A year that would be mine. Finally, completely mine. Spring came to Queens like a whisper. One morning in late March, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window, the kind of light that feels warm on your skin that makes you believe in new beginnings. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and for the first time in months, I didn't think about Evan when I opened my eyes. After the noise fades, what's left isn't victory, it's understanding. 6 months had passed since the wedding that never was. The legal dust had settled.